Hey everyone! So, I am creating this video today because if you're friends with me on Facebook, you probably saw this. I posted about how over the weekend I've had not the best time mental health wise. Overall, I've had an okay weekend. Honestly, a lot of good stuff, a lot of great conversations. I did some nannying, babysitting for some of my favorite kids. I had one of my other favorite students play based lessons on Friday, and had some good conversations with my sister and friends. Has been a great weekend overall, honestly, but just have felt sort of physically ill and haven't felt mentally great. I've compared to how I normally am, I can notice the difference. So this is actually something I've wanted to do a video about for a while, but because it's directly relevant to my weekend, I wanted to talk about it because it's something that I feel like, especially with coronavirus and just even normal work and life stress, adulting, or being a teenager, wherever you're at, whatever phase in your life, I think that we need to talk more about mental health and how to, when you are, especially when you're feeling down or sort of off, how to get that level back up. You're down here and you're and get back up here. But I even do these things when I'm feeling great. I do it every day. Some of these things every day and some of these things weekly. So there are 8 things I'm going to go over, and I will also do videos on each of these 8 topics. So I'm going to give you just an overview of my interpretation of these things, but I will do a more in-depth one on each because I think there could be a whole series on each of these things. And I'm also not a psychologist, therapist, psychiatrist, expert in any of these things, but I've been doing some of these things for a really long time. And again, just my experience on it. So if you get something out of it, awesome. If you've been doing these things longer or in a different way, absolutely please feel free to share, because I think we can all just in general in life learn from each other and deepen our own practices and just become better versions of ourselves so that we can become as a whole better society, better humanity. Let's just keep improving, So there are 8 things that I wanted to sort of go over, and the 8 things I wanted to talk about are the following: exercise, meditation, affirmations, gratitude, positive inputs, acts of kindness, journaling, and therapy. So to start with exercise, I want to preface this by saying, if you've got some kind of injury or pre-existing condition or whatever, I want to be empathetic to that, whatever it is. I don't say whatever to minimize it. I just mean in the broad spectrum of anything that limits your ability to physically move, I do want to be empathetic to that because I pretty much don't. I'm epileptic, so there are times when I don't feel physically well enough to go for a run, and running is, my sort of main thing. But find some way to improve your health via exercise if that is available for you, whether it's yoga, running, weightlifting, climbing, going on a hike, going on a walk, whatever it is. These things do help us, obviously, on a physical, on a biological level, and I find it helps me mentally as well. Running for me, I prefer solo sports. I really like running because it shows me not only what my own limits are and that I can often surpass them, but it also gives me the time to just be by myself. I typically listen to podcasts, which we'll circle back around later too for positive inputs. And just, clear my head, just get out. And I like to run at 5 a.m. because I'm a morning person and a psychopath, apparently. And according to some people, I like 5 a.m. I think 5 a.m. is great, honestly. I like to go because I like to watch the city wake up, or sort of be alone in a major city. And it's a pretty cool feeling, and you can get to see that way some great sunrises, some great views. And especially during coronavirus, during wave 1 here in Prague, it helped me get outside and feel sane being outside and feel safe as well. I didn't feel safe going to shops or going, sort of just even out when there's a lot of people. But at 5 a.m., not a lot of people. And it's pretty great. So second one, I wanted to talk about meditation. And I'm going to go so far into this in a separate video because there's so many things I have to say about meditation. I will preface this by saying I hated meditation for a long time. Actively hated, not this kind of stuff, really genuinely hated it. So I will just say for meditation, keep exploring it. If you've tried it and you're like, oh, this sucks, like there are so many different types of meditation. And something that I do a lot to sort of find like what resonates with me, what speaks to me, literally sometimes like the voice, like two people could do the same meditation, like say the same things, and one person I'd be like, wow, yeah, like I really, that resonated with me, I felt something there, and the other person I'd be like, okay. So I really believe in finding something that works for you, whether I'm not going to get into all the different types, but like go on YouTube, search meditation. There's a ton of different applications for it, like Headspace, and I think Calm is an app. I've seen their videos on YouTube, but I've never checked out the app. There's free stuff, paid stuff, whatever. Like just search for meditation, try a few different types, a few different people as well, like different voices, male, female, old, young, whatever. Just like try different stuff and see if it'll work for you, because I find it really helps me, especially with mindfulness, remaining present, calming my emotions, getting some distance from the emotions as well. So something that I found very valuable for me that I've been doing for years now, and again, hated it for a while, but have finally found something good in it. Also affirmations, and I am aware that affirmations are kind of like woo for a lot of people. They're like, oh, that's dumb or lame or whatever. But again, we'll get into this separately. There are like physiological, like brain things that it does when you write something down that's positive about yourself, or in a different way, but if you say it out loud. So like if you write down, for example, like, I don't know, I'm a happy person. And let's say, I'm going to, again, get into this way more in depth in a different video, but like if you're struggling with something, you're like, oh, am I happy? I don't know. And I would recommend with affirmations starting with something that feels closer to home, that you kind of more believe, before jumping into something that you definitely don't believe, because your brain's going to fight you on it. And I've experienced it. But like, let's say if you're like, oh, like I'm all right, I'm generally in an okay mood, and you're like, I'm happy. If you just write it down, then your brain is getting that as input. Your brain literally cannot tell the difference between what's real, what it's actually seeing, feeling, experiencing, and the information you tell it, because it thinks you're the captain of the ship, you're in charge, you know what's going on. Sure, why would you lie to me, So there's also a different way it processes information when you say it out loud. So I would recommend doing both, trying both, and again, starting small and building up. But affirmations are awesome, and I love them so much. And it often, again, same like with anything, like it might at first you're like, that did nothing, I did nothing. But I would recommend saying and or writing something, like if you write it, do it for a minute, 2 minutes straight, the same sentence over and over and over again. Thank you to my therapist for that exercise. And if you're saying it out loud, at least 10 times, and then just keep doing it for days, weeks, a month, like 20 days, 30 days at minimum, and just see how you feel after that. But like pick one, do it for that amount of time, and then, change, add on, do whatever. Gratitude, huge. I love gratitude. If you know me personally, you probably know that because you've probably received a literal gratitude letter from me. So I actually got those during quarantine as part of, if you Google the happiness planner, and like they have planners, notebooks, like all this stuff, like tons of crazy positive stuff. And I discovered them back in like 2014, 15, 16, somewhere around there. I don't remember exactly when, but I remember I lived in San Diego at the time, and I was using their planner, and at first I was like, this is so expensive, like, ooh, but it was epic. Like it is packed full of, like, it is worth every single penny. And they, during quarantine wave 1, they released their gratitude and their resilience journals, which gives you a lot of journal prompts, which will circle back around to. And one of the aspects of the gratitude journal was these gratitude letters, and it encouraged you to write letters to people you're grateful for. And I have been doing them since then. Like I do them now as often as I can. Like I'm trying to do it more, even because I feel like it's so powerful just saying to someone, like, thank you for doing this thing, but even more powerful to write them a letter about it and be like, I love that you do, like, not just like, thank you for taking out the trash, but like, I love that you realize that I often forget to take out the trash, or that you do it because you're on your way to the metro or whatever, like, I love that you're so thoughtful and, like, try to make my life easier, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, it could be anything. But also being grateful for things in your life. Like, I am a classic person of doing this, where I like go to my closet and I'm like, I have nothing to wear, or like same with food, like I go to the pantry, I'm like, there's nothing here, but like there is stuff there, there's so much stuff. So I think there's always something to be grateful for. So just being grateful for the things in your life, the things you already have, grateful for lessons you've learned, grateful for yourself and the way that you've handled challenges, and as well as the people in your life, and verbalizing it, writing it down as often as possible. Next thing I would say is positive inputs. And I put quotes around that because like it's, to me, a very broad category. And I mean by that I go out of my way. And this is something I feel like I've said a lot, but we'll say again for the rest of my life, because people are like, oh, Megan, you're so positive. And I am. I love positivity. But I also go out of my way, like seek it out, like people seek out oxygen or water for, like to remain alive. Like that is me with positive inputs. I listen to podcasts almost daily, like usually, like I said, on my runs. I read books about like psychology, positive psychology, like being more grateful, positive self-talk, like all this kind of stuff. I read blog posts, I research it, both the science and the sort of woo side, both, all of it, the whole thing, everything about it. I watch positive movies. I watch TED Talks all the time. I have almost 300 videos in my like watch later on YouTube. And probably half of them or a quarter of them, I don't know, are TED Talks. Like I love TED Talks and they're so inspiring. So find something inspiring for you, whether it's listening to, listening to something, reading something, going on a walk, watching the sunset, watching the sunrise. Find positive things. Find things that bring you joy, not like for any other reason, but just for the pure sake of bringing you joy or making things more clear for you, like, or something inspiring. Like it's out there. Find it, whatever it is for you. I promise you it'll make a huge difference, because where you focus your energy expands. So for example, there's a lot to be upset about in the world right now. If you sit 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're watching the news, probably gonna have a bad time. And that sucks. But not to say like ignore the world, but definitely make sure you're having positive inputs as well, because it, again, changes the way you think. It changes your brain. So please find whatever it is for you, like really make the effort. Like think about like, when do I feel inspired? When do I feel happy? When do I feel joyful, bliss, calm, whatever, like find those things. Also acts of kindness kind of goes along with gratitude. Like when I really sit down and think about it, the things people do for me in my life, whether it's like consciously like, oh, I'm going to do this kind thing for Megan, or they just like do it, they're just like doing these things subconsciously or consciously, like it makes a huge difference for me. And if those things were not there, I don't know, life would be a lot different. So I try to, and it's one of my, I think I made like 3 New Year's resolutions this year, because I normally just write down the stuff, never look at it again. And I'm like, oh yeah, I think I made some resolutions last year. I don't think I did any of them because I don't remember what they are. But this year, one of mine was to do 1,000 random acts of kindness. And it could be anything from like, I don't know, like you see your spouse, roommate, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, it has like left the dishes. You could go clean them up, like sure, you don't need to. You didn't make them, but like, why not? Like why not just, if I promise you, because the instant I made this an intention, like the opportunities appear. If you were just like, I want to do something kind for someone today, you will notice when there's an opportunity to do it. Holding the door open for something, whatever, like do nice things for other people, and it will boost your own mood as well as the other person's. And it's like a ripple effect too, like if you do something nice for someone, they might be like, wow, I didn't even know that person. They just like held the door open for me, or, whatever it was. And then they might do something for someone else. Or even if they don't, like you've done something nice for someone without asking for anything in return, without like having, like a reason behind it of like, oh, I bet if I do this, then they'll do. No, like just do it to do it, and it'll change your life. It's been awesome. It's now what, October? No, September. In my mind, it's October because it's spooky outside. But like it's been a life-changing year of like looking for these things, and I want to do it for the rest of my life. Like it's awesome. Gratitude and acts of kindness are like amazing. Also journaling, and I'm gonna preface this one by saying I have been journaling since I was like 7, so like 23 years or more, I don't know. But if journaling doesn't come easy for you, because for me it does, because like I said, I've been doing it for decades, like I just pour it out. But if it does not, and you're like, oh, I can't journal, I've tried before and I just don't know what to write, there are a lot of things. Again, Google the Happiness Planner. As I said, during quarantine wave 1, they released 2 free journals. I don't know if they're still free, but there's a lot of prompts out there. If you just Google like journaling prompts, and I would recommend doing it just because I found the most, like I get the most out of it in this way, doing them in like, expansive, it's called appreciative inquiry, like if you Google that, or like sort of, I also call it like expansive questions. Like instead of writing like, you could write, what are my biggest problems this week? And maybe that's fine too, you know? But what I like to do and what I find I get more out of is like, what would my ideal week look like? Especially if I've had a hard week. Because the problems are already there. You're already thinking about it. You've already probably been stressing about it for a couple of days or longer, you know, depending on the situation. But if you are able to think about it in a slightly different way, it usually gives you better answers and sort of turns you into your own guide through life. I'm sounding like super woo. We're like Pocahontas, the like, I forget, but grandmother oak or something, or no, it was a weeping willow, I don't know, whatever. We're like the spirit guide of ourselves in this moment. But like seriously though, and I have experienced this so many times where I'm like, oh, I have this problem and it's so stressful and I don't understand, like, you know, which is normal. Like it's normal to get stressed out by stuff because the world moves really fast, and especially right now, like the world is straight up crazy. Like I don't know, there's too much to be concerned about that like it overwhelms me. But that's where I think journaling has a lot of power. And also, my second biggest piece of advice with journaling is to write, and this is maybe depending on your situation, easier said than done. So like take this with a grain of salt if it might be harder to do. But like me as an adult who lives with roommates that, you know, obviously don't go through my stuff, it's easy for me to say this, but to write as if no one will ever read it. And if you're worried that someone will read it and you don't want someone to, you can like burn your journal after, I don't know, you know, do whatever you need to do. But like I noticed with myself when I write as if I assume some stranger or something's gonna read it, I'm not like fully really honest with it, you know? But if I write like, this is just like stream of consciousness, just throwing it out there, even if I don't like what comes out, even if I'm like, I was really mad about this, and like write something that I look back on later, I'm like, that was a little immature or petty or, you know, like whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's like a judgment-free zone. Just let the thoughts out because it's such a good outlet. And like I said, you can usually help yourself. The last one, and I saved this for last for a couple of reasons, because I think it has a really negative stigma sometimes, and I don't think it should. I don't think it's like a fair thing to do. So, or to like put on it. Like, so I started going to therapy during quarantine, and it was the best decision I ever made, honestly. Like, and I had growing up like some really bad experiences with therapy. Like I went a couple times as a teenager and had like some straight up shit therapists, like really terrible people that like should not ever be allowed to practice or work with children, especially like just horrible, like not okay things. So again, with therapists, to a greater degree than with meditation leaders, I'm not sure what they're called, people that lead, I guess, I mean, leaders, I don't know, whatever. But with therapists, whether in whatever form you take that as, remember that you are like sort of interviewing them or whatever, just the same as like, you don't need to go to one therapist. If you go to one person and you're like, that wasn't really a pleasant experience, I felt like they were rude or they weren't, you know, like my personality, like whatever it is, if you get a weird vibe, there's probably so many different therapists just out in the world practicing. And also I think especially right now, because we're in the global pandemic, a lot of people have moved their practices online. So there is, I think, a greater possibility than maybe there ever has been to find someone that you do vibe with and that will help you through stuff. Also want to say that therapy is not just for people who've been through trauma. If you've been through a trauma, it's wildly helpful. But if you haven't, or like you're living your normal life, like life is stressful. Honestly, there's a lot going on for all of us. And again, during, you know, current times, even more. So like just to be able to talk to someone about it and like get it out, again, another outlet, but then have someone who's trained in a lot of different aspects of like psychology and physiology, whatever, all these different things that do play a role into how we show up in the world. Being able to talk to them, again, in a judgment-free zone and have them give you honest and constructive advice on how to create the changes you want in your life. If you know, like, let's say you've had a trauma and how to get over that trauma, how to let it go or make peace with it, move on from it, do, you know, in whatever way that, you know, makes sense. Or if you're just like, you know what, I feel like pretty happy, but I'm not really satisfied with life. Like, whatever it is, it could be anywhere on the spectrum of life problems or things. It will probably help you. Like, Therapists are amazing. Therapy is amazing. Would recommend. I go once a week and love it. Like I would probably go more, but I'm an overachiever with everything. And I tried that with therapy, and sometimes less is more. But anyways, probably gonna edit that out because that makes me sound like a crazy person. So with all these things, also just a bit of advice that I would say is like, if you've not done something and you want to integrate it into your life, don't feel like you need to be like, all right, well, I'm gonna exercise every day, but I haven't exercised in 5 years. Like, less is sometimes more in the beginning, like to do just a little bit every day and to build it up into a habit, or to do it once a week and then be like, okay, yeah, I'm sort of feeling this now. I'll do it twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever, but like, what I want to caution people against is like, oh, I'm gonna do all these things for 1 hour every single day. I mean, I don't know if that's 8 hours, that's a full work week. Like, if you have time, cool, like whatever. But like, don't overcommit yourself, because then you might just not do it entirely, like, just give up on it. I mean, I have done this before with many things. Or it might be too stressful for you, and then you might see it as sort of like a burden rather than something meant to help you. And the reason I'm sharing these things is because I do think that they can help you. They've helped me. And again, as always, if you have any questions on, how I do these things, or suggestions on, hey, I do this as well, or I also do this, or whatever, like, safe space, ask the questions, leave the comments, whatever you want to do. Obviously, please in a positive way, because I do firmly believe that we are all here to learn from each other, help each other, and to grow. And then that's what creates community and uplifts humanity. To not sound just woo the entire time, but honestly, I really think it does. Like, I think the more we can work on ourselves, we leave more room for us to help others. And obviously, if we help others, we're all helping each other, and it just creates this beautiful world that I would like to exist more and be a part of more, and have it just be the norm rather than like, wow, do you remember the other day when someone was really nice and I didn't even know them? Like, to just have that be everywhere and all the time, and to get rid of some of these major problems we have in the world. So good luck with all these things. And again, look for the videos on each individual one of these topics, because I will talk about a lot more, and there could be 25 on each. Like, there's so much to say on all these things, but hopefully these help you. I know I get a lot of these, whether I'm in a good mood, bad mood, anywhere in between. It's just a good thing to be able to work on yourself, but in a positive way. Like, don't think of it as work, just like being a good teammate, basically, is how I consider it. And I feel better when I have these things in my life, and I feel like a good team member to myself, which is a really good feeling to have. So good luck in life. I believe in and love you all, and I think you're amazing. Thank you for all the support all of you have given me. Like, I've had some times, and you guys are the ones getting me through it. So thank you so much. Love you all. Bye.